This is the host. It's time for the Bible story. We're going to look at the story of Solomon. You know, many of us wish we could have just one day of being wise, to make good choices and get through difficult situations. But there was one person in the Bible that had not just one day of wisdom, but he had a lifetime of wisdom. But eventually his wisdom ran out. This person is none other than King Solomon. In our previous episode, we looked at how David, the father of Solomon, was chosen to be king. After David knew that his time was about to finish, he called his son Solomon to come close to him. And when Solomon got close to him, he passed on the instructions to Solomon on how to prepare for the kingship. And David encouraged Solomon to be a good and righteous king. Then God appeared to Solomon in a dream, and he said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." So Solomon didn't ask for riches, silver, or gold. He didn't even ask for the kingdom or victory over his enemies. No, he asked for something much more valuable than those things. He asked God to give him an understanding heart so that he can judge and govern God's people wisely. Wow, what a request! This was not something that Solomon had prepared or rehearsed. No, it was something totally spontaneous. And God was so pleased with this request that he gave Solomon not only wisdom, but also riches and honor beyond any king before or after him. After becoming king, he started making great decisions that helped bring order and justice throughout the land. And this caused Israel to prosper in every area. His wisdom became a thing of legend. People from all nations traveled to hear him speak, including the famous Queen of Sheba, who said he was even wiser than what she heard about. In fact, the Bible says that the queen came to test Solomon with hard questions, but she realized that his wisdom surpassed her own. At the end of her visit, she brought him gifts, including gold, spices, and precious stones, which were worth a fortune. During this time, the Israelites did not have a temple to worship God because God told David that he wasn't worthy to build the temple. So Solomon decided to change that. He gathered large numbers of workers, and they got to work cutting down huge cedar trees. They took these cedars to Jerusalem, and then with skilled craftsmanship, they built the magnificent temple of the Lord. The temple was decorated with ornate pillars, massive walls, and a holy of holies where God promised to meet with Israel. The construction of this temple marked a significant turning point in Israel's history, uniting the nation and establishing a permanent place of worship for Yahweh. He also built palaces and cities and trade routes, turning Israel into a huge, wealthy empire. In fact, the Bible says that silver was so common in Jerusalem during his reign that it was said to be as common as stones. Wow, what a legacy he left behind. But what happened? How did he go from being the wisest king to losing it all? Well, let's find out. A troubled heart. You see, although Solomon was blessed with wisdom and prosperity, his story doesn't end there. There's a dark side to his tale. You see, as time passed, Solomon's heart began to stray from the God who had given him all those blessings. You see, although Solomon had asked God for wisdom in order to lead his people well, he ended up using his wisdom for his own purposes. Remember, God warned Israel's kings not to marry women from other nations. Why? Because these women often tried to lead their husbands to worship their gods instead of the God of Israel. But Solomon didn't listen. He married hundreds of wives from foreign lands, and these women enticed him to turn away from God. Now, that may seem unbelievable, but remember, these women likely had beautiful temples dedicated to their gods and enticing ceremonies that appealed to the senses. Plus, Solomon had plenty of money to make these temples lavish and attractive. Can you imagine how easy it would be to leave the one true God for false gods when so many options are presented to you in such a tempting way? The Bible says that Solomon built high places and altars for idols like Chemosh and Molech, things that greatly upset God. God then spoke to Solomon through the prophet Ahijah and told him why he was upset. God said, "You have not kept my commandments, and you have broken my statutes." You have done things in my sight by going and worshiping other gods. Therefore, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and break your descendants' dominion over Israel. Yet, as for me, I will not deal with you in full measure and destroy you completely. Only your descendants in the 5th generation among the sons of Israel. For I will not utterly take from you all your descendants, nor will I make your descendants as many as the dust of the earth. And I will punish you in every way with many troubles, but not with a lasting cord or an everlasting ban. You see, God had made a covenant with Solomon that if he remained faithful, his kingdom would be blessed. But since he turned away, God would be forced to carry out his words. The end of an era, so God carried out his words. When Solomon's time as king was finished, his son Rehoboam became king. But almost immediately the kingdom split apart. 10 of the tribes in the north joined together and chose Jeroboam, Solomon's son from another wife, as their king. Only one tribe remained under the rule of Rehoboam in the south. This fulfilled exactly what God had told Solomon, that the kingdom would be divided after his death. During the following years, both kingdoms suffered greatly. They had constant battles and civil wars, which led to thousands of deaths. Even though both kingdoms still worshipped God, the division was a constant reminder of what had happened to their ancestor, Solomon. Solomon's later years and his legacy. You see, towards the end of his life, it seems that Solomon regretted the choices he had made. Many scholars believe that the book of Ecclesiastes is a reflection of his thoughts during his final days. In this book, he writes, I have seen all the things that are done under the sun, and, indeed, all of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I have seen many strange things in my lifetime, but there is one thing that is completely amazing. There is a man who is rich enough to enjoy everything. He can pile up silver until there is so much that it cannot be weighed. He has piled up so much gold that there is nowhere to store it. Yet God says he will have no lasting value. For he is like a fool who hoards the sun's rays or tries to capture the north wind in his pockets. A fool is like the man who struggles to gather the wind or to grasp the water in his hand. But Solomon says, get yourself ready for the time of both plenty and the time of need. Surely now there is future reward for the people, God says, but their plan will rest with him. These verses show us that even someone as wise as Solomon realizes that chasing after worldly pleasures and riches doesn't bring lasting happiness. When Solomon was old, he experienced sickness and pain too. He was very tired of living a life that was full of pleasures and now full of suffering. He wanted to die and go back to the days when he felt God's favor and the strength of his youth, but death didn't come for him. So he wrote these words, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near when you will say, I find no pleasure in them anymore. You see, although Solomon's wisdom saved him from many problems throughout his life, he couldn't save himself from death. You see, Solomon reigned for 40 years. And when his time was finished, he died and was buried in Jerusalem. A lesson for us. Solomon's story is one of the saddest stories I've ever studied. To think that he had it all. He had great wealth, great wisdom, and the chance to go down in history as one of the best kings. But now no one remembers him except for his failures. You know, the story of Solomon reminds us of what Jesus said in Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. You see, Solomon failed when he tried to serve God and riches at the same time. So the next time you're tempted to put your faith in your possessions rather than in God, remember the sad tale of Solomon and choose God instead. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And watch the next video.